Hey YouTube, Rockshake here. Is college a scam? Well, I'll tell you what I think, and then you decide. Let me know what you think. I don't think that college is for everybody. I actually think that college is really quickly becoming the new high school. A high school diploma meant something once upon a time. Well, I dropped out of high school, and I got a GED because I thought, that it would... put me back on the path of life, so to speak. Who's going to hire me? Who's going to want me? So, and nobody's ever asked to see it. I've had it for like 13 years. Nobody's ever wanted to see my GED. So I really probably could have just done without it. But because high school is necessary, but it's almost kind of irrelevant. It's all about college now, but I think that college is a system. It's more of a business now than it ever was, and I kind of think that it exploits people's wants and desires. I liken college to tenant farming, the system that kind of took advantage of freed slaves' wants and desires to own their land. It's like, well, if we can keep them in debt, we can kind of keep them slaves, so to speak. I mean, they won't really own anything. They'll be in so much debt. So I kind of look at it that way, and I think it's all presented in the allure. People, like, college is only this good thing. You can't badmouth it, which is pretty much what I'm doing now, and, I'll probably prove my point. But it's presented as this, it's only going to be a good thing. Even if you end up with a bachelor's degree in butthole picking, and you're flipping burgers at McDonald's and you've got $20,000-$30,000 worth of debt, you made the right choice. Nobody's ever, college is one of those things that it can't be a bad thing. So I think that's the first annoying thing about college. And, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that college is all across the board useless. There are definitely professions that I think benefit and absolutely need. Like, for instance, doctors should definitely go to school, medical school. Scientists should definitely be in college. I don't think we need a scientist who's like, oh yeah, I watched some Bill Nye. I watched some Bill Nye when I was a kid. I watched those YouTube videos where, the Coke and the Mentos. I know how to build a rocket. I got this. Or the doctor who's like, oh, open heart surgery? Yeah, I on the elevator on the way up here, I pulled out my phone. I watched a quick couple how-tos on YouTube. I got this. I brought my disposable razor. I mean, don't worry, I washed it. I use it for shaving, but I washed it. I got this. I hope you're not. I ran out of gloves, so I brought my my yellow dishwashing gloves with me. I hope you're not allergic. You're not allergic? Okay. So I get it. Certain professions need education, but what I found frustrated me was that this, how it operates. Like, you often just read, and then you take a test, and you read, and you take a test. I mean, you're really self-educating. You get this pitiful amount of time with an instructor who basically just goes over what you read and tells you what to read next. Really? That's it? I spent so much time in the class distracted by the fact that it's like, excuse me, I could take the instructor out of the equation, and I could read this book on my own. But the scam comes in where you can't get the test. You can't just read on your own and take the test to prove you know the material, which is really all the test demonstrates. You get a grade and it proves you know the material. So it's kind of bizarre how that works. And I had this one particular class that I just couldn't stand going. I had 7 absences over the course of a semester, and I still got a B+. Well, the instructor, I think, I want to say out of spite, took my grade down to a C- because of absences. And I'm like, but I still got a B+. Missing a week's worth of class. That says more about me than it does about you. And that's kind of really where it opened my eyes. It's like, man, I can still do this without the instructor, because all the instructor's going to do is go over what we read. I mean, that must be a pretty nice job, when all you have to do is, like, teach by a book that you didn't even write. That must be pretty nice. And I often wondered, like, do teachers even read the assignments that you turn in? Like, I only had maybe a couple instructors that would really go out of their way to give you feedback. I once had an instructor that was so thorough. She graded a paper of mine twice and even commented, she's like, I think you turned this in an extra time. And I was like, no. So I went back through my papers, and I was like, sure enough, she gave me a grade, forgot that she graded it, and graded it again. But I mean, that was rare. Like, that was really rare. Half the time I would get a paper back, it'd be in the pipeline for like 3 weeks, and it would say good on it. Good, or entertaining. It's like, did you do like a letter a week? I mean, good? That's it? That's all I got. But, oh, and here's another one that bothered me when you're going over the syllabus on day one. Like, this is another thing I can't understand why you have to do this in college. It's like, I can read. Can I just do this on my own? And every single instructor has to go over their syllabus, and it's out of date. You know, it's been out of date since like 1704. You know, the book on the syllabus doesn't even exist anymore, and they can't be bothered to update it. It's like, come on. You know, come on. Take your job a little bit more seriously. But, you know, and oddly enough, it wasn't just the system and how it worked. It was the students. Like, I couldn't stand being surrounded by young kids, you know, who they think that their poop is ice cream. You know, they turn in these garbage papers, you know, and of course this belief that their ideas are perfect is reinforced by the fact that they get A's for their ideas. You know, the whole joke, I'm sure that can't be unique in this, is, you know, the guy or the girl who's like, oh man, I wrote this paper while I was taking a shit, you know, 8 minutes before class, and I wrote it on toilet paper, and I ran out of toilet paper, so I used the cardboard tube that was left over, and I got an A. And I'm sitting there thinking, what? You know, and then when there's a rare instance that students don't get A's, you know, they freak out. And because I had this creative writing course where, you know, you actually got to read other students' papers. You know, it wasn't just a student-instructor relationship. It was student to student. And you'd read some of these papers, and you're like, my God, I'm surprised they remembered to put their name on it. You know, the grammar, you could tell it wasn't proofread at all. Their ideas are just like, what are you even talking about at this point? And it was the ideas of these young kids. You know, I can't stand lofty, like 18, 19-year-olds who, you know, who think they know the world. You know, I remember when I was in an Edgar Allan Poe course, oh gosh, there were kids that were like, they think they make these brilliant observations like, hey, wait a minute. I think Edgar Allan Poe was racist because the raven in The Raven is black. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, oh my God, really? You know, and of course these people are, you know, everybody's nodding and they're like, what an astute observation. And I'm like, or maybe it's just because the raven is a black bird. Okay, and Edgar Allan Poe used it because it was menacing looking. Okay, I mean, would it have been the same? Can you imagine the raven with the Aflac duck? You know, it's like, oh, above my chamber door, you know, Aflac, you know, and he's like, or like a frickin' seagull, mine. You know, can you imagine if like Edgar Allan Poe wrote, you know, it was the swan, and people read it and they go, I didn't really like it. You know, maybe you should change it to like a scarier bird. No, I like it when it's a frickin' swan, you know, or goose. It's like, oh my God. Or people would go, I think he was sexist because most of his characters are men. Maybe he wrote male characters because he's a guy. It probably came more natural to him. Do you think of that? Because like, and then these friggin' people who make these observations, whenever a male author writes a female character, they're like, oh, that's not how a woman is. That's not how a woman would behave. Well, fuck. Then maybe that's why he wrote male characters, because it was easier. If I write, I usually write from the perspective of a guy, because I am a guy. All right. You know, that's been about 10 minutes. That's pretty much my ramble. But in closing, you know, I don't think college is for everybody. Like, high school certainly wasn't for me. I know it's it's almost been ruined again by young kids, but I think that, you know, college was kind of interfering with my ability to learn. And, because I believe in self-educating. You know, I like reading. You know, I'll read about history. I really like history. I think it's fascinating, especially when you can see history, mistakes that we've already made, alive and well, being made again today. But I think that what bothered me about college so much is that you can't bypass the debt. You know, can you imagine going to get your license? You know, you've already practiced driving with your mom or your pop. You know, you've got a car. You're there. You're ready to take the test. and the DMV instead says to you, no, it's not that simple. You got to go take this course. It's going to cost you 20 grand to prove that you know the material and how to drive, and then we'll give you a license. It's like, why can't I just educate myself and take the goddamn test? You know, because that's all this is. I feel like, you know, I used to joke with people. I was like, I feel like I'm buying my degree, not really earning it, because I could take a shit, roll it into a poop joint, and just turn it in, and I would have got an A from basically 8 out of 10 of my instructors. There was only a couple that I felt took their jobs really seriously. So what do you guys think? If you had bad experiences with secondary education, you know, and I would say, if you haven't gone, think long and hard about it before you go, because you know, aside from meeting my girlfriend, I pretty much regret college. I don't regret the theatrical experiences that I had. There were things in there that I think were very enriching, you know, mostly because of the wisdom and experience that my instructors had to share from me. But man, oh man, was that like just a pinch of what I got out of the whole experience. So let me know what you think. All right, this is Brock Shake. I'm out of here.
But why do they put a guarantee on the box, then?
Because they know all they sold you was a guaranteed piece of shit. That's all it is, isn't it? Hey, if you want me to take a dump in a box and mark it guaranteed, I will. I got spare time.